That goddamn MC Hammer, very serious about beef. Y'all motherfuckers laugh and y'all joke about Hammer. No. That was deep with
MC Hammer's image fooled a lot of rappers until they crossed him. From Third Bass mocking him and paying the price to Ice Cube, learning Hammer wasn't someone to disrespect publicly. In this video, we're breaking down the rap legends who messed with Hammer and immediately regretted it. LL Cool J. This story involves one of hip-hop's most iconic figures, LL Cool J, the self-proclaimed king of rap. Now, the beef between LL and Hammer exemplifies that classic East Coast versus West Coast tension that defined much of late 80s and early 90s hip-hop. The conflict began in 1987-1988 when Hammer, hustling tapes from his car in Oakland, signed a massive $3.25 million deal with Capitol Records. Frustrated by East Coast gatekeepers who refused to play his tracks, Hammer fired shots on his debut single, Let's Get It Started. In this track, he name-dropped LL alongside Run DMC and Doug E. Fresh as outdated acts blocking his rise, bragging about being the new kid on the block and surpassing them in relevance and sales. Now, LL Cool J was riding high as rap's self-proclaimed king, but his 1989 album, Walking with a Panther, had underperformed commercially. By 1990, as Hammer dominated with Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em, selling 30-40 million units globally, LL struck back viciously on his comeback album, Mama Said Knock You Out. The track, To the Break of Dawn, contained absolutely brutal bars mocking Hammer's dancing, fashion, and perceived softness. LL rapped, "That amateur, swinging a hammer from a body bag, so run and get your camera. You couldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight, wouldn't throw a rock in a ghost town. Stop dancing, get to walking, shut your old mouth when young folks is talking." He targeted Hammer's Star Trek glasses, entourage of dancers, and pop rap style, positioning himself as the authentic lyricist. But here's where things get interesting. Hammer never dropped a direct lyrical response, which some interpret as strategic silence, letting his chart dominance speak for itself. However, the feud turned physical during LL's Oakland tour stop for Mama Said Knock You Out. Backstage, a Hammer associate allegedly punched LL in the face amid rising tensions, sparking a scuffle that highlighted Hammer's street ties. Years later, LL reflected in a 2018 Instagram series that, "I didn't have a beef with MC Hammer. MC Hammer had a beef with me, and he knows I love him. I lit him up, cause that's what I was supposed to do." He credited Hammer for supporting his Troop clothing line early on, and called it just what you do in rap battles. The regret factor here is fascinating. LL never fully regretted the diss lyrically. It actually boosted his comeback, but the physical blowback and Hammer's unshakable success, outselling LL's album by millions, underscored the risk. But LL wasn't the only East Coast heavyweight who underestimated Hammer. Another rapper learned the hard way that even casual jokes carried real-world consequences. Redman. Red kicked off his solo career with What? The album in 1992 under EPMD's Hit Squad imprint. At the time, Hammer was at his commercial peak, and Redman saw him as easy punchline fodder. On the album's skit Funky Uncles, Redman went off. "He ain't Hammer ain't doing nothing for us. He ain't you ain't his mama ain't his daddy ain't nobody." Now, this was part playful exaggeration, but mentioning Hammer's mother, that crossed a serious line in the era's code of street respect. 3 years later, during the final taping of Yo MTV Raps in 1995, Hammer, then pivoting to a harder image, confronted Redman backstage. As Redman recalled, "That came up to me, he shook my hand, he was like, 'You a youngin', I like what you do, but you just know I don't play nobody talking about my mama.'"
I seen it, and he was very serious about beef. "Oh, you gonna talk about my dancing pants? I see you." And he will whoop a out.
Redman, caught completely off guard, responded humbly, "Yo, Hammer, man, you were big. Look, man, I ain't got no beef with you, my dude. You are an OG. I'm a young cat." Hammer, towering and intense, emphasized his boundaries without escalating to violence, but the message was crystal clear. Redman has revisited this story multiple times over the years, always with a mix of awe and regret. In a 2018 Vlad TV interview, he tied it to Hammer's alleged $50,000 hit on Third Bass, saying pre-social media beefs were more serious because you could get hurt. He described a near miss in Oakland with EPMD, where Hammer's crew boxed them in over the skit, forcing a quick escape. Redman, now a hip-hop elder himself, calls it a session in humility and warns young artists, Hammer don't play. No physical harm came to Red, but the encounter fundamentally shifted his view. Hammer wasn't a joke. He was an OG with real power and connections that extended far beyond the dance floor. If Redman's confrontation showed Hammer's personal boundaries, our next story shows what what happened when someone crossed a line that Hammer considered unforgivable. Third Bass. Now we're getting into one of the most intense stories in this entire saga, the beef between New York's Third Bass and MC Hammer. This conflict has become legendary in hip-hop lore, representing everything that was dangerous about 90s rap beefs. Third Bass, MC Search, and Pete Nice were backpack pioneers with their 1989 album, The Cactus Album, blending jazz samples and social commentary. Their beef with Hammer stemmed from what they perceived as a snub. Search challenged Hammer to a dance battle, but Hammer dismissed him with, "Get the f*** out of here," then shaded Run DMC in interviews. The initial diss dropped on the Gas Face, but things escalated dramatically with Pete Nice's bar on the title track, The Cactus. The Cactus turned Hammer's mother out, a pun twisting, "Please Hammer, don't hurt him," into a maternal insult. This line, more than anything else, set off a chain of events that would haunt Third Bass for decades.
He wanted his claim to fame to be, I'm telling you, Hammer was gonna have me, put in the dirt somewhere. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous that you want that to be your claim to fame.
Here's where things get absolutely wild. Hammer, enraged by the mother diss, allegedly put a $50,000 bounty on Search's head, despite Pete delivering the line, confirmed by Eric B. of Eric B. and Rakim. The hit reportedly went to the Rolling 60s Crips, Hammer's Oakland allies. During Third Bass's 1989 LA promo run, the threats became terrifyingly real. Def Jam's Lear Cohen got a call from Hammer's brother. Third Bass will be killed when they arrive. Russell Simmons quickly arranged protection via a bodyguard named Pookie. The incidents kept mounting. At a Louis Vuitton store, Crips affiliates, one actually asking for autographs mid-threat, tried to jump Search. The next day on a radio station, Search called out Hammer live. Hammer responded. Then a Crip threatened on air with automatic weapons. Pookie had to de-escalate yet again. The group finished the tour in disguises, genuinely fearing for their lives. Search detailed the lasting trauma on Vlad TV in 2018 and on Drink Champs in 2021, 2023, and 2025, admitting pettiness fueled the feud and linking it to lifelong PTSD requiring weekly therapy. In the 2025 Drink Champs appearance, Search reflected, "That lyric Pete dropped on Hammer's head was hard body, but it went too far." The psychological toll was immense. Search has spoken openly about how this beef affected him for over 2 decades, requiring extensive therapy to process the trauma of having a legitimate price on his head, and the fallout only escalated from there. Because the next rapper on our list wasn't a playful punchline, he was one of the most feared voices in West Coast hip-hop. Ice Cube. Ice Cube, NWA's Compton firebrand and one of gangsta rap's founding fathers, also learned not to test Hammer's boundaries. Now, you'd think someone of Cube's stature and street credibility would be untouchable, but even he had to back down when Hammer came calling. The initial diss came on Cube's 1990 Kill at Will EP with the track The Product, where he rapped, "I'm a star like MC Hammer, but I don't swing a hammer." It was a subtle shot, mocking Hammer's pop sheen while asserting his own gangsta authenticity. But Cube took it further with the True to the Game video, which portrayed a Hammer lookalike getting kidnapped, duct taped, and thrown in a trunk. In the early 90s, Hammer confronted Cube at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in Hollywood. According to multiple accounts from 2024-2025, including discussions on Drink Champs and various YouTube retrospectives, Hammer checked him directly, addressing the disrespect face to face. The confrontation was reportedly intense, but didn't result in violence. Hammer assertively laid out his perspective. "We spoke about people dissing people. That's been going on, making it clear that there were boundaries that shouldn't be crossed." Cube, known for his bravado and tough persona, reportedly went into on-site mode but quickly backed down, realizing that Hammer's Oakland muscle and Crips ties outweighed his own connections.
Ice Cube and a lot of these hardcore back then, they were jealous and envious of Hammer, like you said, because he was doing what they all wanted to do.
Yes.
A 2025 clip titled "The Day Ice Cube Found Out How Dangerous MC Hammer Really Is" frames it as a wild, behind-the-scenes moment where Cube learned not to test the Bay. While Cube has never publicly admitted regret maintaining his hardened image, the story circulates as a cautionary tale in hip-hop circles. Notably, he avoided further shots at Hammer after this encounter, which speaks volumes about the impact of that meeting. But not every conflict with Hammer was direct. Some were interconnected, woven through other legendary beefs that shaped the entire rap landscape. Kool Moe Dee. Kool Moe Dee, a pioneering lyricist from the Treacherous Three and one of hip-hop's true architects, provides another fascinating angle to the Hammer story. Now, Moe Dee doesn't have a direct beef with Hammer. His legendary feud was actually with LL Cool J, but his story intersects with Hammer's in a way that illuminates the interconnected nature of 90s hip-hop rivalries. Moe Dee's beef with LL predated Hammer's, starting in 1987 with How You Like Me Now, where he accused LL of stealing his style. This conflict produced some incredible diss tracks, with Moe Dee firing back with Death Blow in 1991. But here's where Hammer enters the picture. Remember LL's devastating 1990 track To the Break of Dawn? Well, LL didn't just target Hammer on that song, he also went after Kool Moe Dee and Ice-T, dedicating different verses to each opponent. LL mocked Moe Dee's signature shades, rapping about Star Trek shades on the side of your face, you look like a dope fiend hiding from police. LL later boasted on the 1995 I Shot Ya remix about crushing Moe Dee, Hammer, and Ice-T's girl, forever linking these three artists in battle lore. This multi-pronged attack demonstrated LL's confidence, but it also created a web of interconnected beefs that defined the era. What's particularly interesting is how these battles played out differently for each artist. By the mid-90s, Moe Dee's career had waned while LL thrived, leading to gloating lines from LL about having crushed Moe Dee. Meanwhile, Hammer's massive commercial success continued despite, or perhaps because of, the controversy. Moe Dee never targeted Hammer directly in any tracks or interviews, focusing his energy on the LL beef instead. In a 2015 Acclaim piece, he reflected on his own beefs without mentioning Hammer at all, which suggests a deliberate choice to avoid that particular conflict. The lesson here? Moe Dee's story serves as a cautionary tale about the pain of ignored diss records and how rap beefs can define or derail careers. While he chose his battles wisely by avoiding Hammer, his ongoing conflict with LL ultimately overshadowed his pioneering contributions to hip-hop. And while the East Coast had its share of rivalry, nothing hit harder than what happened in Hammer's own backyard, an Oakland story that could have exploded at any moment. Too Short. Now this one's particularly fascinating because it's a hometown beef, Oakland natives going at each other. Too Short and MC Hammer both rose from Oakland's gritty underbelly in the mid-1980s, representing different facets of Bay Area hip-hop culture. Too Short, with his raw player anthem style, represented the unpolished street poet, while Hammer was already eyeing mainstream glory with his polished pop rap approach. Their paths crossed in the Dangerous Crew collective, but egos clashed as Hammer's star ascended into the stratosphere. The tension really began brewing between 1987-1989 when Hammer's polished pop rap overshadowed Short's underground grit. Too Short felt Hammer was appropriating the Bay's style without properly crediting the roots. In 1989, on Short's track The Ghetto from Life Is Too Short, Dangerous Crew affiliate Dangerous Dame penned some brutal bars targeting Hammer's image.
It wasn't like violence or anger, it was more like just, the local competition.
Yeah.
And Hammer he was a big dog, man.
Hammer fired back subtly on Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him in 1990 with tracks like Have You Seen Her, nodding to Bay rivalries without naming names. But by the early 90s, the beef had simmered into real threats on the streets. Short later revealed in a 2018 Vlad TV interview that Hammer's mob crew enforcers, including his brother Louis Burrell, a former pimp and gang affiliate, pulled up on Short's crew at Oakland spots like the Beverly Theater. Short recalled, Hammer was a big dog. People tested him and found out quickly he wasn't backing down. What's interesting about this beef is how it eventually fizzled without bloodshed, a testament to Oakland's code and the family-like bonds within the Bay Area hip-hop community. By 2017, Short went public in an Ambrosia for Heads interview, admitting the rivalry was competitive, not personal, and praising Hammer's street cred. He came from the same blocks. Don't sleep on him. Hammer echoed this sentiment in a 2022 KQED documentary, calling Short family from the jump. Today, they're both recognized as Bay icons who occasionally collaborate on tributes. While Short never issued a formal apology, he has acknowledged that the disses put unnecessary heat on both sides and expressed respect for Hammer's hustle and street credibility. But the tension didn't stop in California. On tour, Hammer crossed paths with a duo who learned just how quickly backstage drama could turn into real danger. EPMD. Eric Sermon and Parrish Smith, better known as EPMD, were funk-sampling kings from Long Island who dropped classics like Strictly Business in 1988. Their beef with Hammer represents one of the most explosive behind-the-scenes conflicts of the early 90s.
We had beef with Hammer, so it wasn't...
So you guys started that then?
What you mean?
You had beef with Hammer, EPMD?
Yeah, on the tour, yeah.
The friction started during a multi-act tour in 1991-92 amid hip-hop's East-West divide. EPMD, known for their gritty, no-frills style with tracks like You Gots to Chill, represented a harder edge that clashed with Hammer's polished, pop-leaning spectacle. According to Eric Sermon's detailed account on Drink Champs in 2024, the feud ignited on a DJ Quick tour when gangs were targeting Quick nightly. Hammer's 30-person entourage clashed with EPMD's crew, and things came to a head over a seemingly minor incident involving their dancer, Fendi. The spark? Fendi ignored Hammer's crew's rule against climbing speakers during performances. Hammer's brother confronted and allegedly punched Fendi, shattering his glasses. PMD, overhearing the commotion, charged in to defend his crew member. What followed was described as a sea of people. Hammer's dancers, all in signature Hammer pants, swarming the area and turning it into a full melee. Sermon found himself cornered in a hallway with PMD and their associate Solo, forced to strike a karate stance as attackers zeroed in. Police and sheriffs intervened just before things escalated to serious violence, but the incident didn't end there. The fallout was severe. It escalated to the point where PMD's home was shot up, with suspects allegedly connected to the beef, though nothing was proven definitively. Redman, who was living with Sermon at the time, confirmed the violence. The feud was based on financial disputes that got so bad that his home was shot up. Sermon later admitted regret, calling it drama that nearly derailed their legacy. They squashed the beef years later, but the incident highlighted Hammer's reach. EPMD fled Oakland shows fearing reprisals. Hammer never directly dissed them back lyrically, but his silence and the street-level response amplified the fear factor. In his 2024 interview, Sermon reflected that every rapper who dissed Hammer was jealous, implying that EPMD's shots hurt their own momentum more than Hammer's. The numerical disadvantage was stark. EPMD's small crew of 4-6 people versus Hammer's army of 30-70 enforcers. As K Solo noted, Hammer's brothers could have done what they wanted on their home turf. And if backstage chaos wasn't enough, Hammer also found himself clashing with one of the biggest rap groups in history, fueled by competition, sponsorships, and pride. Run DMC. Run DMC, the pioneering trio who bridged rap and rock with their iconic Walk This Way collaboration with Aerosmith, also found themselves in Hammer's crosshairs. This beef was particularly complex because it involved not just artistic rivalry, but corporate maneuvering and real-world threats. The conflict traces back to 1986-1987, when Hammer, on tracks like Let's Get It Started, name-dropped and mocked Run DMC alongside LL Cool J and others. To build buzz, he portrayed them as dated East Coast acts, positioning himself as the new king. He even appeared in videos with caricatures of Run DMC, figures wearing their signature glasses, to signal he was taking their throne. Run DMC, at their peak with major Adidas deals and Coke sponsorships, initially ignored the disrespect, but things got personal when MC Search of Third Bass, who was mentored by Run DMC's Jam Master Jay, got involved. Hammer saw Run DMC's support of Search as interference, calling them sour grapes for backing a Queens kid in his beef. The public confrontation came on the Arsenio Hall show in early 1990 when Run DMC aired their grievances. The reason why we say some things about Hammer: he started off his career dissing Run DMC, had guys looking like all three of us, and disrespected us in 2 of his videos. They called him a great entertainer, but not a good rapper, dismissing his shows as jumping around with 50 people on stage and ghost vocals from his crew.
About MC Hammer, we said, you know, he can't rap. He's not a good rapper. Great entertainer. He's a great entertainer, but he can't rap. You know what I'm saying? You take away the jumping around, you take away the